I finally made it to the Horneater Peaks after a very, very long hike from the Shattered Plains. So if you'll forgive me, I'm gonna rest here for just a little bit before it's my turn to go through Cultivation's Perpendicularity. On my way here, I did run into someone who was blade dead in Yakaved, which is not doing well right now, don't go there. Seeing him did get me wondering, like, why did the Shardblade wound sever his connection to the spiritual realm and cognitive realm? Like, what kinds of spiritual damage exist in the Cosmere?
A spirit and a soul are not the same thing in the Cosmere. Spirit is usually used in reference to a person's cognitive aspect, and soul is associated with one's spirit web.
But in order to get to the stabby bits of spiritual damage, we have to lay some groundwork in realmatic theory first. I'm gonna try and make this as simple as possible.
Every being in the Cosmere is made up of 3 parts according to realmatic theory: a physical body, a cognitive aspect, and a soul. Each of these aspects ties individuals to each of the 3 realms. Basically, all things exist in 3 separate dimensions layered on top of each other in the Cosmere. The physical realm, the realm of matter, the cognitive realm, the realm of thought and perception, and the spiritual realm, a realm where all times, places, and things exist at once. All these layers together form a full being. A person's soul exists in the spiritual realm. So does a person's spirit web. They're not exactly the same thing, but pretty closely related. A spirit web contains all the information that makes that person them. It contains all the information about their connection, identity, and powers they're able to access. A lot of people like to think of it like spiritual DNA, but for me it's easier to think of programming Minecraft entities with NBT tags where you can add attributes to different mobs.
If you didn't expect that from the guy who had a long-running Minecraft server where this was built, I don't know what to tell you.
Spirit webs are quantifiable. They can be observed and measured with proper tools. In Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, Design has a device that can analyze a person's spirit web.
A spirit web can be damaged by physical or emotional trauma, which is pretty emo if you think about it.
The spikes transform them. Kelsier thought, like Inquisitors. Is that how they're controlled, through piercings in the soul? What of madmen? Were their souls cracked open, allowing something similar?
Trauma can cause cracks to form in the soul, which makes it easier for shards to invest people. It's also how Kelsier and Ruin were able to communicate with people in the physical realm from the cognitive, through the cracks in the souls of madmen. It's also how Radiants are able to form bonds easier with Spren if they have some emotional trauma.
Is being a little crazy a prerequisite to becoming a Knight Radiant? Well, so for many of the Cosmere magics to work, it has to get into the soul somehow, right? Sometimes you ram it in by spiking someone else's soul and ripping off a piece of it and sticking it to yours. Sometimes it just seeps in the cracks. Sometimes the bond allows it to kind of bypass some of this, but it's usually traumatic experience. So crazy's not required, but there's gotta be a place for the magic to go to get in.
The easiest way to inflict spiritual damage on oneself, and others for that matter, is through hemalurgy. I feel really gross saying that it's the easiest method because it's very violent. Perhaps convenient would be a better descriptor for hemalurgy.
Anyway, hemalurgy is the 3rd metallic art from Scadrial. In this magic system, people with knowledge and intent can steal parts of the souls of others by stabbing them with metal spikes. These spikes can then be pounded into the body of another person along specific bind points to give them the stolen attribute. More often than not, this process is deadly to the donor. Once a spike is received, the recipient gains the stolen ability, but their spirit web becomes damaged. They're left with tears and holes in their soul. These spiritual wounds can be exploited by shards and even powerful soothers and rioters.
The next thing I want to mention about spiritual damage is the Threnodite system, a place I truly never want to go. Please don't make me go there.
Ambition, Mercy, and Odium were involved in a violent conflict that took place in the Threnodite system. This conflict, which ultimately led to Odium splintering Ambition, resulted in damage to the spiritual realm itself. That said, the most worrying thing I discovered in this was the wound upon the spiritual realm, where Ambition, Mercy, and Odium clashed, and Ambition was destroyed. The effects on the planet Threnody have been disturbing.
It's almost certain that this wound on the spiritual realm in the Threnodite system is the cause of the shades and the evil on Threnody. Damage on a shardic scale to the spiritual realm is thankfully uncommon. How does the spiritual realm get damaged anyway? I would love to learn more about this, but from a distance.
Moving on, we've got Shardblade wounds. When a Shardblade passes through a living thing in the physical realm, it severs the connection between the physical and the cognitive, as well as damages the spirit web of the victim.
This causes whatever is cut, be it an arm or a leg, to die. It seems to be severed in the spiritual and cognitive realm, causing the limb itself to turn gray and become unusable and limp. It would be fascinating to see what this looks like in the cognitive realm. Does the person just, not have a hand in the cognitive realm? I would really like to know.
Shardblade wounds can be healed with sufficient enough investiture. There are slight story spoilers for Words of Radiance ahead. Kaladin felt the light working, a tempest within straining and pushing. He gritted his teeth and heaved somehow. The color returned to his hand and feeling cold pain suddenly flooded his arm, hand, and fingers. Light began to stream from his hand. Whatever Kaladin had done to his hand had consumed much of his light, and his overall glow faded, leaving him barely alight.
As we can see here, Radiants with enough Investiture are able to heal a Shardblade wound. It's by healing the Spirit Web and then that healing filtering down through the cognitive and into the physical.
You need to make a patch on the soul with Investiture.
Alright, so how's the Investiture know where to go?
Oh, you've got $3.
Well, your soul is an ideal.
When Healing Word you rip something off the soul, is that off the ideal soul or some sub?
That is off of your soul, and it can be healed, but what it's going to be doing is creating a patch of new soul. So it will not be your original soul. Does that make sense? It is not your original soul.
Yeah, but in like modern medicine, stuff like that is absorbed and...
Yeah. And this, that you will always have a scar on your soul that something else has patched over.
So Kaladin shouldn't just keep getting his arm chopped?
But that is what happens with most forms of Investiture in the first place.
We also know that the Surge of Regrowth, if administered shortly after a Shardblade wound is received, can heal a Shardblade wound. I imagine that the same process with a similar amount of Investiture would work with a Gold Feruchemist. Although, because it takes Investiture to heal the Spirit Web, I wonder if like a Necrosil Metal Mind would work better, just because it stores Investiture instead of healing specifically.
Also on Roshar, we have another form of spiritual damage, which is connection and identity theft.
Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. Millions of families suffer every year.
The next part is going to get a little bit complicated. I'm going to have to bust out the timeline for this. There won't be any story spoilers, but there will be major revelations and world-building spoilers for the first 4 Stormlightarchive books.
When we first met the singers in the Way of Kings, they were known as the Parsh, a docile and slow people that had been subjugated by humans and used as slaves. This state is known as dull form, and was a direct cause of the connection and identity of these people being removed. Nearly an entire race of people was forced into subservience for thousands of years, all because they had parts of their souls taken from them. This event occurred at the end of the False Desolation, sometime around -800 CA, nearly 2,000 years before the events of the Way of Kings. How were the souls of the singers damaged? During the False Desolation, while the Oath Pact was still intact and the fused Denodium were locked on Braze, the unmade Ado Mishrim was able to make a connection to the singers and grant them void light and forms of power. Ado Mishrim had somehow connected with the Parsh people, as Odium once did. She provides void light and facilitates forms of power. Our strike team is going to imprison her.
This connection and the False Desolation spelled doom for the singers, as well as the Spren, and possibly even the sanity of the Heralds.
It was a fluke. We couldn't break the last Herald, and the humans found some way to pin the whole Oath Pact on him, so we got stuck on Braze. Eventually, the Unmade decided to start a war without us, and it turned out to be exceedingly stupid. In the past, Odium granted forms of power, but Ado Mishrim thought she could do it. Ended up handing out forms of power as easily as fused to give each other titles. Connected herself to the entire singer species. Became a little god. Too little. Basically, everyone relied way too much on an oversized Spren. Trouble is, Spren can get stuck in gemstones, and the humans figured this out. End result, Ado Mishrim got a really cramped prison and everyone's souls got seriously messed up.
This reliance on what Ulam described as an oversized Spren seemingly is what led to the singers having their connection and identity forcibly ripped away. Do you remember that strike force from the Oathbringer excerpt I read? Well, turns out that strike force imprisoned Ado Mishrim in a gemstone around the same time as the Recreants. This imprisonment severed the connection between Ado Mishrim and the singers, and perhaps a larger connection to Roshar as well.
Now, a lot happened in the year -800 on Roshar. Not only did the False Desolation begin and end, and the singers got trapped in dull form, but the Recreants also happened that year. Before the Recreants, Spren that were involved with broken oaths did not become Deadeyes.
Greg Andrews says, did Radiants who broke their oaths prior to the Recreants also result in Deadeye Spren?
No.
Okay, that was nice.
And while the Spren did choose to go through the Recreants, it's unclear whether they understood the consequences, whether they knew if they would become a Deadeye.
When a Radiant breaks their oaths, the Spren they bonded with becomes a Deadeye, a shell of their former selves. These Spren are unable to communicate with people and seem to be in immense pain when current radiants touch their shardblade forms. It's unclear how aware Spren are in this state.
The imprisonment of Ado Mishrim has caused a heavy toll to the peoples of Roshar. The Singers were subjugated for millennia, unable to act or think. They were taken advantage of in a state of mind that was vulnerable for them. It also resulted in Radiant Spren suffering more for broken oaths than their human counterparts, leaving them as shells of themselves, in pain and unable to communicate with the outside world. Well, on that happy note, it looks like it's my turn to go through the perpendicularity. So, let's get going.
Let's go home.
Looks like I found you, my friend.
Tendel? What are you doing here and why am I not on the Rasharan subastral?
We had to intervene. They were waiting for you in the Sea of Lost Lights, my friend.
Rust, really?
Indeed, it's not quite safe enough to get you to Scadrial yet, although our intervention should be enough to get set off your train.
I guess, to Silverlight, I take it?
Correct. We, or more specifically Adosha, got you as close to the anomaly as we could, but it's still a long walk.
Great, let's get moving then. Hey, have you ever had chowta?
No, I haven't. Is it any good?
I like it. I'll have to make you some when we get to Silverlight. Hello! Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I remembered that at the end of filming, I forgot to ask you guys to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. So if you did enjoy this video and are enjoying the Cosmere content, please subscribe. This will probably be the last big, on-location video I do for a while. They've just been kind of expensive to do, and I have been unemployed for the last little bit. So if you want more of on-location, cool Cosmere content, subscribe. Let's get this channel growing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. All right, guys. Bye.